All right. This is my IOC presentation. There's my template. Nothing written on there. No extra writings. I'm gonna keep that in my hand. There's nothing with me. Nothing behind me. Okay, so my IOC presentation was on the Steve Jobs commencement speech, and in 2005 for Stanford, he basically talks about how he began his company and where he got to, how he got there, what the process was. Jobs achieved the American dream, and in his speech, he talks about it. He praises it, advocates for it, the capitalist society. So the aspects of Jobs' speech that are most significant to a Marxist are rugged individualism and his advocating for the American dream, because the two ideas can be seen as the issues with capitalist societies today, such as America. And Jobs reinforces the idea of the American dream as he argues that he experienced the typical rags to riches story. That is, when you go from poverty or not that much wealth to extremely wealthy. And that's actually how what happened. So he says Apple had grown from just the two of us in a garage into a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. Now he's reinforcing the American dream here. He's really against Marxist ideals. He kind of romanticizes it, as Lois Tyson says, how capitalist societies actually romanticize such individualism and the American dream. He Marxism argues that the American dream blinds us. It blinds the people from thinking that they can get somewhere, and it doesn't actually allow them. It's just a belief, so it's pretty hollow. It's not an actual thing. Uh, in the eye of Marxists, Jobs would be seen as kind of unethical or unjust because he's believing in the American dream, and the American dream, if it's hollow and it's not real, then it would actually, it's not a good thing. It's not the best thing in the world. So Marxist ideals would claim that as a bad thing. They would view it in a negative connotation. This is this is implying that the American dream is just an illusion and there's nothing real to it, although he did experience it. Um, the second example, he says that during the next 5 years he went through many different things after he was fired from his actual position, as he was debating with a colleague about some ideas, and eventually he was ousted from the company. He went through, he created Pixar after that, he created Next, and then he sold those companies and then returned to Apple. And he achieved his goal a second time. That's where he starts condemning the Marxist ideals, because he's saying that Marxist ideals argue that the American dream is false, it's hollow, it's an illusion, it's empty, it's not real. Whereas here, Jobs is showing that he's achieved it twice, not just once. I mean, he achieved it once, he gets fired, and then he does it again. So this is really against Marxism, and so he's really denouncing Marxist ideals implicitly. He's not stating it, of course. This again demonstrates his rags to riches story, going from poverty or not as much wealth or not wealthy to extremely wealthy, to a billionaire, that is, and one of the most famous people to advance technology at all. His American Dream story, again, it condemns and criticizes Marxism, as he claims that the dream is real and can be achieved, twice in his case. It furthers capitalist repressive ideology, and repressive ideology is the term that Marxism uses to describe such ideals that are hollow, ill, they're illusions. They they blind you from the truth, which Marxist criticism by Lois Tyson actually says that it blinds you from the truth. That's what the American dream does, and it the dream tells us what we want to hear. That's one of the main ideas. That the American dream, it it just tells you what you. It's something that you want to hear. It's not something that you know will happen to you. It's not something that for a fact it's going to happen to everyone. That everyone has that opportunity. Marxism claims that this is false. It's just there to convince you of things. And another idea, similarly, Jobs praises capitalism for its rugged individualism, as he states that without him being fired from his job, he would not have achieved such success and become even more prosperous. He says, I'm pretty sure that none of this would have happened if I hadn't been fired from Apple. This shows rugged individualism because his colleague has different views, he has different views, and in order for his colleague to get his views across or his ideas, his principles, he they talk to the board of directors and eventually he gets fired. This is rugged individualism because it's putting something at risk. This is putting Steve Jobs' career, his job, that's pretty ironic, but it's putting his job at risk. Uh, he lost a job at the the company he created. He talks about that as well. He says he was the founder of a company or co-founder of a company and he gets fired from it. That's he uses irony there to prove his point and he furthers his capitalist advocacy. He also praises rugged individualism not for itself but for its consequences. I mean, the consequences of the rugged individualism brought upon by his colleague gets him fired, but he says he wouldn't have achieved such success without him being fired, and he gets even more success. The second part, he claims it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Now, again, this is just restating the same thing. He's talking about how rugged individualism is one of the greatest things. It's there to help him. It's there for his success. Um, Now, Marxism defines rugged individualism in contemporary society as a goal that often involves a risk. Again, this risk is Steve Jobs' career on the line because his colleague debates with him which area or debates with him on their views, and eventually he gets fired. It puts self interest above all others. So his colleague put his self interest over everyone else, over Steve Jobs' interest, over Steve Jobs himself. I mean, he didn't really state anything about caring for him after he got fired. He got fired and then he left and became even more successful after that. Again, he created Pixar and Next, and then he went back to Apple. Again, it's utilized by his colleague and the board of directors. Uh, Here, Jobs praises rugged individualism and the American dream as it led to his success through his usage of unintentional irony. That is, when he talks about how he was the CEO of a company and the co-founder, and he gets fired from it. He creates a company, he's getting fired from it. He also uses figurative language, such as when he talks about. I'm paraphrasing here. It was like a brick in the head. Him getting fired was the best thing. It was like a wake up call for him. And this furthers his advocacy of rugged individualism and the American dream. This is over the time limit because I showed the papers and around me in the beginning, so please don't knock off points.